Whether you have $5 in your bank account or $50 in your bank account or $5,000 in your bank account, whatever be your current state of financial being, there is one book that's going to completely transform your well-being in finance, and that is Psychology of Money. Hi, I'm Guru Rajan. Welcome to this YouTube channel, and let's get started. A small investment of your time in reading this book will not only start your financial journey but also firmly put you on the path to financial independence. Now let's look into some of the exceptional ideas that are given in this book, shall we? One of the things that I really loved reading again and again from this book is having control over your time is one of the highest dividend money pays. The freedom to work on what you want, with whom you want, when you want, and how long you want is priceless. And this is the highest dividend money pays. How beautiful and how succinctly put, so that it strikes straight at us. The second key idea I really liked in this book is, have you observed sometimes we don't even like to do something we want to do? If you go to office, we don't feel like doing that. Have you observed that? I really understood why it is so by reading Morgan's book. Here I quote Morgan: doing something you love on schedule you can't control can feel the same as doing something you hate. So even if you want to do something you like, but it's not based on your schedule, you have the same feel as you have when you do something you hate. Now, if you are financially free, then you can work on what you want at your own schedule, not at the schedule dictated by someone else, isn't it? When it comes to savings, Morgan says there are three kinds of people. The first category of people obviously save money, and they know what it's worth, so they save money. The second category of people think that I'm not left with money to save. Are we one of them? The third category of people think that I don't need to save. This piece of advice is for the second and the third category of people. The idea that is very easy to overlook is that building wealth has very little to do with income or your investment returns, and it has lots to do with your savings rate. So even if your income is low or if your investments are not doing so great, you can still save a lot if your savings rate is very high. And this is something that's very crucial, because the only thing which we have control over is the only thing that matters, which is savings. The only thing we have control over is our savings, and the only thing that matters is wealth creation. So even if you are not having high income or high investment returns, having a high savings rate will sure to make you wealthy. There is a beautiful difference. Morgan talks about being rich and being wealthy. And there is a beautiful example that goes along with it. Let's say that we see a person driving a car which is $100,000. Obviously, he should be rich because it requires certain amount of wealth to pay the EMI for the car which has a $100,000 tag on it. But is he wealthy? It depends upon how much money is in his bank and how his investments are doing. So being rich is about the rich things that you buy or the rich house you live, which may be still on mortgage, or the things you bought are still on EMI. But the money that stays in the bank which produces the investment returns is what wealth is. So being wealthy is very different from being rich. Bill Mann has a very interesting piece of advice for people who want to become rich. He says, do not spend the money that you don't have. Spend the money that you have. That's a sure way to become rich. The only way to be wealthy is not to spend the money that you do have. It's not just the only way to accumulate wealth, it's the very definition of wealth. The other beautiful punchline you will see in this Morgan's classic is, optimism sounds like a sales pitch. Pessimism sounds like somebody is trying to help us. Haven't we observed this so many times in our life? If somebody is optimistic with us, saying really good things about us, we usually think he talks in the air and it looks like a sales pitch. But somebody says, probably in the next 3 years' time, stock market is going to witness a 70% wipeout. So be careful about it. Then we give him a listen. And such a person is called for conferences. He talks about how the stock market is going to lose 60% of the wealth in the next 1 year. So pessimism looks like realism, but optimism looks like a sales pitch. If you want to build wealth, you have to be optimistic over a long run. Sometimes there will be falls. Over a long period of time, optimism wins the game. And be careful about the pessimists who sound like realists. Morgan Housel talks about man in the car paradox. We often seek for admiration and respect by the cars we drive. We think that if you drive a Ferrari or if you drive a Lexus, the other person will admire us, the other person will respect us. Actually, the other person who is looking at the car is not admiring us, but rather imagining himself in the car and thinking how he will feel if he drives this car. If you are seeking admiration and respect, do not seek it through the horsepower you have. Actually, if you want admiration and respect, you should be humble, you should have empathy, and you should have kindness. That will give you more admiration and respect than horsepower ever will. There is a beautiful idea in Morgan's book about tails you win, which really surprised me and completely changed my perspective. You may be wrong 50% of the time, but still you can be very successful. To give weightage to this idea, Morgan talks about in his lifetime, Warren Buffett would have purchased around 400 stocks in different companies. But out of that, 80% of the wealth in Berkshire Hathaway is actually from the top 10 stocks. So he was very correct on picking the top 10 stocks that he got, and he made a fortune. So you may be wrong for more than 50% of the things that you do. But for the things you did do, if you are exactly right, then you made your fortune. As you know, wealth is created by compounding. In fact, more than 90% of the wealth that Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett created is by investing and then patiently waiting for the right time. So compounding is all there is. But why is it hard for people to wait for compounding? Because our mind changes all the time. For example, the profession we chose when we could not even get a driving license, when we were less than 18 years of age, is not the same profession we like when you are in your early 50s. Human minds evolve so much. We don't remain consistent over a long period of time. But compounding is hard because it requires humans to remain consistent for a longer period of time. Consistency is very crucial in compounding. But the human mind is naturally inconsistent. So these two things are contradictory to each other. And that's the reason why compounding is very difficult. In fact, Charlie Munger says one of the rules of compounding is never to interrupt something that you have put for compounding. But the human mind is not consistent. So if you want to make money, you should let compounding to run wild, which means that you should stabilize your mind to stay with some wealth for a long period of time without touching. If you want to learn about 5 productivity tips to improve your daily routine, please click here. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.